All right, welcome in Powers on Sports Podcast. It's our Christmas week edition. Only a few more days left to Christmas morning. Santa Claus coming to town in your part of the world. So hopefully you've again, let me be the first to wish everybody a Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, whatever other holiday celebrations, a little Festivus for you Seinfeld fans out there. Happy Festivus, and all the all everything in between. Hopefully, again, you're going to get an opportunity to spend a little time with your family. If you are not, make sure you call them and or someone that you care about and wish them a Merry Christmas. Even if you're not exchanging gifts with people, make sure to have good thoughts in your mind about others that maybe are a little less fortunate, whether it's here in the United States or all over the world. Lots of stuff going on in the world these days with wars and all kind of stuff going on. So be thinking of other people on Christmas, and obviously hope everybody has a delightful weekend. Obviously, Christmas is on Monday, so for those of you that have to work, thank you for doing what you do. And again, if you are out somewhere on whether it's Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, make sure you take care of those people that are taking care of you having to work on Christmas, whether it's in the service industry or whether it's in just a normal, lots of stuff. Lots of people have to work on holidays. So make sure you're very thankful for those people, and obviously our military as well. Those people always have to work. We always have to be on alert. So again, any military people, make sure you thank them, and just make this a fun week. We don't want to have any more stress than we need during this week. So we got a good episode for you. No guests this week. I'm just gonna talk for about 20 minutes or so. We're just gonna talk some NFL, some little college football, hit some a couple of sports topics around the sports calendar. Remember, in the NFL this week, there's 2 games Saturday, full slate of games on Sunday. There's a Sunday night game out in Denver, a Christmas Eve game, and then you're gonna have a triple header on Monday, Christmas Day in the NFL. You're going to have a full slate of NBA games on Christmas Day as well. That's been traditional. This is the Roger Goodell. We don't give a damn what the NBA is doing. We're still going to have NFL games on Christmas. Triple header. I think you have Kansas City hosting. You have Philly and the Giants midday, and then at night on Christmas night you're going to have a showdown out in San Francisco. The Ravens and the 49ers, a huge game with a ton of implications on the line. Too many people think these are the two favorites to make the Super Bowl, and it'll be awesome to have a late season showdown like this out in San Francisco on Christmas night. So, again, full slate of games throughout the weekend. Again, lots of stuff going on in the playoff race. You had Philadelphia lose on Monday night, a great drive by Drew Lock and the Seahawks late to win that game late in Seattle. You had the Cowboys get smoked by the Buffalo on Sunday in Orchard Park. James Cook put my fantasy team to sleep with his performance, buried my fantasy team. I was playing against James Cook. Thank you, James Cook, for sticking me in the you-know-what and knocking me out of one of my 2 fantasy playoffs. But I did advance in my other playoff, so I am in the semifinals of my primary fantasy, not my primary, but my 2 leagues that I play in. I'm in the semifinals. Knocked out my buddy GP, Devastation Incorporated, my buddy in Dallas. Beat him back-to-back weeks, last week of the regular season, and then beat him again, he was the number 2 overall seed. The General PA Toilet Bowl lives on once again with my man GP and company. So we're into our semifinals. Myself, the Captain Shady, the Vipers, and the suspect Riggs have advanced to the semifinals in the Magic City Fantasy Football League. So we hope to advance to the finals, make a little more cash, but we will see how it goes this weekend as I will face off with the Vipers, my buddy Michael Banks from Birmingham. That we will have a little fantasy showdown on the weekend to see who goes to the final. So, all right, let's get to some football. Let's get to some before we get to the. We're going to give you a little list of some coaches that I think might be in trouble. Let's first hand out some coaching blunders from the weekend. Again, every week there seems to be 1 or 2 instances where the coaches just make disastrous decisions, and that maybe don't cost them ultimately the game, but just decisions that you really, as a fan, think, what are these guys doing? First, we're going to start in Jacksonville Sunday night. If you remember the low-scoring game with the Ravens and Jaguars late in the first half, Trevor Lawrence throws a long bomb down the sideline, completes a ball to about the 5 or 6 yard line of Baltimore. Jacksonville has no timeouts. There's about 15 seconds left in the half. Instead of going up and spiking the ball with about 10 or 11, that way you'll have two throws to the end zone. The Jaguars try to run a play. And if you're going to run a play there, you have to throw the ball in the end zone. You can't throw the ball not in the end zone and not out of bounds. Well, what does Jacksonville and Lawrence do? They throw a ball, a 1 yard route. The guy gets tackled inbounds at the 5 yard line. Time runs out. They get nothing. Were they going to win that game? Not sure. Probably not. But just a disastrous time management situation by Peterson, and more importantly, by Trevor Lawrence, who's got to know better. You can't throw a 1 yard route. You have to throw the ball in the end zone there if you're going to try to run a play. Didn't have a problem with them trying to run a play, but you can't throw a 1 yard route, not in the end zone. So that was coaching blunder number one. The Ravens go on to win the game 23-7, I believe. And take not firm control, but keep control of the number one seed in the AFC. Jacksonville's now tied with the Colts. What a job by Steichen and getting that Colts team with Gardner Minshew to 8-6 as they beat the Steelers last Saturday. Mitch Trubisky is a complete disaster. He's been benched. We're into Mason Rudolph. The Steelers are still in it. I mean, unbelievable how they're still in it. They have a huge game at home against the Bengals, who keep finding a way to win with Jake Browning. But yeah, lots of drama in the AFC in the 6th and 7th spot, as well as the NFC in the 6th and 7th spot. You got NFC, you have basically the Rams, the Seahawks, the Bucks, the Saints, the Packers, and the Vikings are pretty much the teams that are vying for the couple of spots in the NFC. Pretty much Dallas or Philadelphia is going to be the 5 seed, whichever team loses the NFC East. Detroit's going to win that division, and then you got and then you have the NFC East division winner, and then you have the 49ers, who are going to be most likely the 1 seed, barring an absolute collapse. So coaching blunder number 2 was in the Bucks-Packers game, in my view. Again, did it change the result of the game? No. Early on, the Packers go all the way down the field, long 6-7 minute drive, 4th and goal from the 3. You got to kick the field goal. It's 3-0 Bucks early. You got to kick the field goal if you're LaFleur. They don't kick the field goal, don't score. Bucks end up winning the game 34-20 in a game that most people thought the Packers were going to win. I didn't. Obviously, my Bucks that's my team. The Bucks have really overachieved the last 3 weeks, getting to 7-7. Give Todd Bowles a full credit. This team was teetering on the brink of a meltdown there at 4-7, if not for a 75-yard touchdown pass from Evans to Baker Mayfield in the rain against Carolina. He was about to get benched. Bowles, if they lose that game to Carolina, would have most likely in all but certainly probably been fired, not at the end of the game, but at the end of the year. But give Todd Bowles credit. They've found a way. They've won 2 road games in a row They won at Green Bay, and then they won. Where did they win the week before? They won at Atlanta late. So Bucks to 7-7, first place NFC South, and they're now in a great spot to still make the playoffs in the NFC, even if they don't win the division. They got 3 games left. 9-8 is going to get somebody in as the 6 or 7 seed. So if the Bucks can win 2 out of the next 3, you got Jacksonville, New Orleans at home, and then at Carolina to wrap up the year. I think the Bucks have a great opportunity to get in as a wild card. They have the tiebreaker advantage over both Green Bay and Minnesota. They beat them head to head. They've not played the Rams, who are playing well. But again, Bucks are in a great spot if they can win, especially if they beat Jacksonville this week with potentially no Trevor Lawrence in the concussion protocol. They beat Jacksonville this week, they're going to the playoffs, in my view. So again, lots of games with a lot of playoff implications this week in the NFL. You have the Miami Dallas, which is going to be a big game. Saturday, Cincinnati Pittsburgh is a huge game. That's pretty much an elimination game for Pittsburgh and probably Cincinnati as well. You have the Indy and Atlanta game. In Atlanta going back to Desmond Ritter. Benching Desmond Ritter, going back to Taylor Heineke. You have Green Bay has to win at Carolina to keep their hopes alive. Huge game. Cleveland at Houston. Probably not going to see C.J. Stroud. They've all but said he's not going to play this week. So you got Flacco going to Houston against Case Keenum, who had a tremendous comeback in Tennessee last week. You have a game which is unwatchable. The Commanders and the Jets, Vikings and Detroit. They play twice in the next 3 weeks. So Minnesota's got to win this game at home to keep their playoff hopes alive. Detroit can clinch the division as well. We mentioned Dallas and Miami, and then you have Denver has to win Sunday night against New England. And then on Monday, obviously Monday, we got the triple header. You got Kansas City hosting, you got Baltimore, San Francisco, and then you got the Giants and Philly, who also will play twice in 3 weeks as well. So very lots of games with lots of implications going on here. So let's go to the MVP race. Three candidates, in my view. It's either Purdy, Lamar Jackson, Christian McCaffrey right now. Unless Tyreek Hill goes crazy the last 3 weeks, which is possible. Remember, he didn't play last week. He's going to most likely play this week against Dallas. If he goes nuts the last 3 weeks, he could steal this MVP. But I think it's a three-horse race. Purdy, Lamar, Christian McCaffrey. Purdy's the leader in the clubhouse. This game Monday night, Purdy against Lamar, will have a huge impact on who wins the MVP. If either one of them play great and their team wins and gets the number one seed, I think those guys are in the driver's seat to win the MVP. I'm going to give the edge to Purdy right now. But again, I think if Tyreek Hill went crazy these last 3 weeks, he'd get a lot of votes late. And obviously, if Lamar beats Purdy in San Francisco, he will then vault probably to the lead of the MVP race. It'll be interesting to see there. So coaches in trouble. I'm going to give you the list of there's 10 teams that I've written down that I think are going to very possibly have coaching changes. We already know Carolina, Vegas, and the Chargers have made in-season changes. Those three will have new coaches. Potentially, could Antonio Pierce keep that job in Vegas? Potentially, but I do think they'll end up hiring somebody else. You will have a new coach in Carolina, a new coach in Los Angeles with the Chargers. Couple interesting, 3 or 4 interesting ones that we don't know yet that are very interesting. Pittsburgh. If Pittsburgh sputters down the stretch here and they lose the last 2, wouldn't shock me one bit if there's a mutual parting of the ways between Tomlin and the Steelers. Potentially a trade to somebody. He gets traded. But again, there's a lot of rumblings out of Pittsburgh that there could be a change in Pittsburgh, whether it's mutual or not. Keep an eye on that. Chicago, Eberflus has done a really good job the last 8 or 9 weeks keeping that thing together. Will he keep his job? Depending on, they're probably going to have the number 1 pick in the draft with Carolina due to the Carolina trade. Does the Bears management, do they keep a defensive guy when you got the number 1 pick and you're probably going to take a quarterback? Are they going to keep Justin Fields? How do they leverage that? Be very interesting to see what they do there. Tennessee with Vrabel. I don't think he's in trouble of getting fired, but it wouldn't shock me if at the end of the year they made a move there. Again, lots of speculation. Vrabel's name's been mentioned possibly in New England. Could he replace Bill Belichick? Vrabel's a really good coach, but he just hasn't seemed to have been able to get that team over the top the last couple of years. And then obviously New England. Belichick, all the rumblings are saying that he's not going to come back in New England. Could he potentially be a candidate in Washington? Could he potentially be a candidate with the Chargers with Herbert? Very, very interesting to see what Bill Belichick, his options are if they do, again, part ways. Remember, it's been 20 plus years. Kraft, you can't let Belichick keep being the GM. Even if he gets hired at another job, I don't think you can allow Belichick to be the decision maker on the draft and personnel. He's just not been very good the last 7, 8 years with that. Wasn't great even with Brady there. They've not played well. I think if you got a ready-made quarterback, i.e. Herbert, he could be a major player out in the Chargers or potentially Washington. I think Rivera's gone in Washington no matter what happens. I think could Belichick want to stay on the East Coast? I think that's a viable possibility. New Orleans, if New Orleans doesn't make the playoffs, I think Dennis Allen's gone. I don't think they're going to keep him. In Atlanta, very, very dicey situation in Atlanta. They've benched Ritter. They're going with Heineke the rest of the year. I think Arthur Smith has been given a lot of rope by Arthur Blanks has given Arthur Smith a lot of rope. Did not have a glowing endorsement for him this week. So Atlanta's another place to keep an eye on. And then I'm going to give you a wild card. If Buffalo were to collapse down the stretch here and potentially not make the playoffs, I think Sean McDermott could be in trouble there in Buffalo. I think they're going to make the playoffs, but if they were to collapse and lose a couple of these games that they shouldn't lose, I think you could see a change in Buffalo. But Buffalo is surging right now. Running game, Joe Brady's doing a great job. James Cook, Allen's playing good, and the defense is playing. I don't think he's going to lose his job, but if they were to falter here down the stretch, could see a change there. So there's 10 spots. 3 are already decided. You got another 7 that very easily could be on the mark. I think Todd Bowles down here has probably saved his job with that win in Green Bay. I think they're going to win at least one more, if not 2 more. So I think he's going to survive here in Tampa for another year. So those are your coaching situations. And it'll be, again, the names to be keeping on are Belichick, Tomlin, Harbaugh with Michigan, depending after the playoffs wrap up. And again, there's always a wild card name that comes out of nowhere. As far as Ben Johnson, the OC for Detroit's going to be a hot commodity. Dan Quinn's going to be a hot commodity. These are the kind of guys that you're going to be hearing about in these coaching interviews and all that stuff. Though, will a guy like Lincoln Riley potentially entertain some coaching interviews, things like that? So we'll see what happens. So that's your kind of your coaching update. National Signing Day was on Wednesday of this week for the colleges. Again, lots of there's so many moving parts on this front with high school recruits, transfer portal, and all that. Georgia was seems to be the number one winner of signing day. Remember, there's another signing day in another month in February, the normal one, but this early signing day has just happened, and a couple more, and so you will see a lot of movement with transfers and high school recruits. Transfer portal guys will be moving because of who the teams signed and got signed. That'll affect some of these transfer portal decisions, especially at the quarterback position, skill players. The big move was Dominic Raiola, the big recruit at Georgia. Everybody thought was going to Georgia, is now flipped and is going to Nebraska. A big get from Matt Rule at Nebraska. Can he be the threat? Can he be the impact freshman they think he can be and turn that Nebraska program into somewhat of a contender? Remember, they're in the Big Ten. A lot of people think Raiola could be the guy that turns Nebraska around, but we will see. So last thing I want to hit on, then I'll give you a couple picks as we wrap up the podcast. Ja Morant's return for the Grizzlies. Again, remember, he suspended 25 games with all the off-the-court stuff with the guns and the videos and all that stuff. He has no more room for error. There will be no more tolerance for any more indiscretions off the court. Hopefully he's learned his lesson. If you saw game 1, you saw a buzzer-beating performance where he hit the game winner at the buzzer in New Orleans to beat the Pelicans. Good for him with a strong return. But again, keep your nose clean, Ja Morant. You got about a $300, $400 million lottery ticket waiting for you if you can just keep your nose clean. Again, Memphis, you're not a gangster, brother. Don't try to live that life. You're a gazillionaire, bro. Let's have a little fun off the court. Nothing wrong with that. But you can't be rolling around with the weapons, and the guys that are rolling around with the weapons, that can't be part of the group anymore, man. Because you have reached the end of the road with the NBA. If there's another indiscretion, you will see a massive year-long minimum suspension of Ja Morant, and his earning power will be crushed if there was another incident involving anything bad off the court. So, rooting for you, man. Keep your nose clean. You got to weed out some of the people from your circle. Do what you got to do. These are tough decisions, I know, but you got to do it, man, because you're worth $300, $400, $500 million over the next 10 years if you keep your nose clean. So, all right, give you a couple picks for the weekend. I'm going to give you 3 picks for the NFL weekend. Remember, all for entertainment. No, not for entertainment. These are picks. I've been doing pretty good this year, by the way, if you've been keeping track. I like Pittsburgh Saturday, getting the 2 points at home. I think Jake Browning's been living on thin ice a little bit the last couple of weeks. Probably no Jamar Chase for the Bengals. The game is in Pittsburgh. There's been a lot of criticism of the Pittsburgh receivers, the effort level, those kind of things. I think that Pittsburgh defense is going to rise up, and I think Mason Rudolph is going to be a little spark for the Steelers. Deontay Johnson, George Pickens. I like the Steelers at home plus the 2 Saturday against the Bengals. Pick number 2, I like Tampa on Sunday minus the 1. I think C.J. Beathard very likely to play in this game. I think the Bucs are on fire. They're playing well. Had their best offensive game of the year last week in Lambeau. Mayfield's playing well. They're starting to figure out things on offense. The defense is getting healthy. I like the Bucs, especially if C.J. Beathard plays minus 1 in a game they got to have. If they win this game, they're probably going to be in the playoffs one way or the other. So give me Tampa minus the 1. And I'm going to give you a 2-team teaser. basically you can tease the point spread 6 points in both games. I like Denver minus 6.5. We're going to move it down to a half. And I like Green Bay minus 5 on the road at Carolina. Going to tease that to +1. Both teams got to win these games. Denver playing on Christmas Eve at home against New England. You got Green Bay going to Carolina. Makes me a little nervous, but I think Green Bay will figure out a way to get it done. So give me Green Bay and Denver together in a two-team teaser this weekend as well. So there's 3 picks for you. Remember, if you haven't already done so, subscribe, rate, and review to the podcast. Thanks for finding us on your podcast platform. You can find the video of this on my YouTube channel, Jason Powers Sports Channel. You can also find video for my other podcast, the No Quarter Given podcast, where we talk all things Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I'm also part of the Press Box Radio Show. It's a daily radio show that's on about 20 affiliates throughout the Southeast. You can go to PressBoxRadio.com. I'm on every Wednesday with Mike Grace and company, my man Bart Heitch. So check us out on Wednesdays. But again, the Press Box is on every day, 8 to 10 a.m. Eastern Time. I'm on every Wednesday with the guys. But Press Box Radio, you can listen live on demand, all the segments. I do a great Powers picks, 6 picks every week I give, and we talk all things sports, all things in the South, all over the country. A lot of college football, a lot of SEC, a lot of NFL, whatever's going on, we talk. And Mike does a great job getting some big time guests throughout the week, every week. So check us out there. And again, we will have an episode for you next week as well, post Christmas. Got a great lead up into the college football playoffs next week. I'm talking to a member of the Crimson Tide Sports Network, my man Chris Stewart, who will be on the call, the play-by-play call for the Crimson Tide Radio Sports Network in the Rose Bowl, talking Alabama and Michigan. I'm going to talk to Eric Henry, who covers Texas every day, part of the Horns 247 beat. And then we're also going to talk to a former head coach who's going to break down both games in depth for you and about the preparation and all the things that go into this game, lead into the college football playoff next week, New Year's Day, which will be Alabama, Michigan in the Rose Bowl, Texas, Washington in the Sugar Bowl. So we're going to have a good episode. That podcast will be out for you on Tuesday, the day after Christmas. So you'll have plenty of time to get all of your content here, lead into the college football playoff on the following Monday. We'll give you some NFL talk as well as we're wrapping up the regular season. So appreciate you finding us. Hit that subscribe button. You can find us on X and Twitter at JPO Sports. Love to hear your comments, suggestions, and whatever else. So appreciate you finding us on the Powers on Sports podcast. Don't forget to get that late Christmas shopping. Don't wait till Sunday at 3 o'clock to decide to go Christmas shopping. These malls close at 4 or 5 o'clock these days on Christmas Eve. Get it done. Get your special someone something. Get mom and dad something. At worst, make sure you call everybody Christmas Day if you're not spending time. FaceTime them, Zoom them, whatever you got to do. Make sure you reach out and tell everybody you love them. Have a Merry Christmas. Have a Happy Hanukkah. And have a very festive holiday season and be safe. See you next time on the Powers on Sports podcast.